Hey, God bless you, and welcome to Fridays by the Fire, the After Effect. I am your host, Sandy Best Life Jones. And if you follow me on social media, you know I was on earlier with Fridays by the Fire and mentioned that I would come back to give commentary about the Teddy and Tina Campbell divorce that is playing out in the media right now. You know that social media is doing what she do. Everybody's choosing sides. Everybody's got an opinion um, about Tina and Teddy and what's happening in their marriage. And this is par for the course when you are a high profile couple like they are. But I'm not necessarily here to choose sides. I'm here to give my perspective about what could be true. I won't say it's the truth because I don't know them personally, but what could be true. And what could be true is sometimes what we're witnessing publicly is something many people have lived through privately. Ask me how I know. So I want to just share my thoughts on what's played out so far, what I see through the eyes of my own experience. And then I want to hear from you about if you're able to relate to what's going on in their life right now. Have you ever been through a similar situation? Do you know someone that has? And if so, how are they dealing with it? And what are they doing to get through something as devastating as divorce in the best way that they know how? Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced divorce, or you know someone who has and they're working through it right now, or they've already gotten to the other side and they appear to be better off than they were when they entered into the devastation that is divorce. I said this in my show earlier. I don't see this as a moment to shame Tina. I see this as a moment that might be freeing her if she allows it. She doesn't have a reason to be shamed. We all say it takes two to end a marriage, and that is true in some respect. But I don't see a reason for her to feel shame. If anything, I would say she's probably just really hurt and feeling a bit out of sorts right now. And I can only frame that statement based on my own experience going through my own divorce. It was just really hurtful. Being in my marriage as long as I was and dealing with some of the things that I was dealing with privately, quietly, secretly, added a layer of shame to my life. But once I decided to go public and begin to speak on some of the things that I went through in my marriage, that shame lifted. And I felt a responsibility to other women to speak my truth in hopes that they might see themselves in my story and begin to do the work that they needed to do to get free themselves. And it is work. Let me just tell you right now, it is work. You don't you don't recover from divorce without doing some inner work. There's a balance that needs to happen that won't happen until you start to tell the truth about what it really means for your marriage to be severed. So, and that takes being rooted and grounded in the truth. And that takes work. I can say now, with the benefit of hindsight and wisdom, that my divorce did not destroy me. It freed me. It let me breathe. And I found out that sometimes God will allow things to be exposed, not as punishment, but to release you from what you've been carrying for far, far too long. I had this conversation with someone earlier today, and they were saying, well, I just feel like couples should try to work it out if they can to avoid divorce. Do whatever you can to avoid ending the marriage. And that might be true for some couples, but in some situations, I think the best thing to do is to let the marriage go. And sometimes letting go is about God restoring you and healing you outside of the toxicity of the marriage. There's some healing that just will not take place while you're still in the toxicity. And God knows that. And so to remove you from that is to begin to orchestrate the healing that you need over your life in some cases, and not every case. There are a lot of couples that, file for divorce and then they end up getting back together. Case in point, Judge Mathis and his wife. She filed and he got the wake-up call that he probably needed to get 30 years ago, and realized that nothing was worth him losing his wife that he loved so much, that he hadn't been demonstrating love to in a tangible way. She woke him up, and it sounds to me and it appears that her doing so not only woke him up, but caused him to understand, I have to make some real changes. There needs to be a change in my behavior. Otherwise, I'm just doing a little manipulation. But I got to do some changing. I don't think his wife was accepting anything less than a change in behavior. And again, I don't know them either, but I'm just on the outside looking in. I just don't think that she would tolerate anything less than a change in behavior. And that's what makes apologies and atonement so powerful, is when you have a change in behavior. It's not just words. Getting back to Teddy and Tina, as couples, you have to stop pretending that a long marriage automatically means happiness, automatically means a successful marriage. Just because it was long don't mean it was successful. It doesn't mean that it was balanced. It doesn't mean that it was healthy. It doesn't mean that it was happy. Yes, marriage is a sacred covenant, but it's not a guarantee of emotional safety. It's not. And we got to tell the truth about that, especially in the religious church community. Come on, y'all, stay with me. Stay with me. We got to tell the truth about that. Marriage does not guarantee emotional safety, because emotional safety in marriage comes from two individuals that have done their work to become emotionally safe within themselves. If they haven't done that work, they can't bring that to their marriage. It's impossible. So yes, you can be married and still feel alone. You can be fully committed and still feel unseen. You can be as loyal can be and still be unfulfilled. And all the loyalty in the world means nothing if it's one-sided. It means nothing. I remember hearing Tina said, I never looked at another man. I never entertained another man. I never entertained thoughts of another man in my life. I never. It was always Teddy. And I remember when she was saying that on the reality show, all I could hear was my own voice saying the exact same thing, because that was me. But this is what I found out after almost 5 years of being divorced. A man needs to know that you will walk away if the honor, love, and respect leaves the marriage. He needs to know that you are not in the running to be the long suffering wife of the year. He needs to know that. He needs to know that that is not your portion. That is not God's will for your life. That is not God's best for your life. He needs to know that. He needs to know that you will choose you over his toxic behavior. A man needs to know that. And I found out I messed up when I sent the signal that I will never leave. That's where I messed up. And I think that's where Tina messed up too. And I'm not talking about running out and filing for divorce every time you get mad. I'm not talking about that. That's childish. That's immature. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when you recognize, you see and accept that this marriage is killing you slowly, mentally, emotionally, maybe even physically. And you make the decision to walk away. A man needs to know that you will do that to protect yourself and to choose yourself. All the loyalty in the world, y'all, means nothing when he believes and you have demonstrated that you will stay through whatever. That's not honorable. It's not wisdom. It's self-martyrdom. And a healthy, balanced marriage does not call for self-martyrdom. And so I believe that Tina dug her heels in and she just said, come hell or high water, I'm staying. I'm not leaving my marriage. And I had a chance to, give my commentary earlier today on the Larry Reed live show. Shout out to Dr. Larry Reed. And in that commentary, I said there isn't much more that a man can do above and beyond having affairs with a multitude of women. And this is what Teddy said he did. This is a quote. He said a multitude of women. There isn't much he can do above and beyond that to show you that he don't like you. Let alone love you. Because you don't do that to a woman that you love or a woman that you like. And I know all of that came out years ago, but the residue of that, I just believe is still there. It's still there. And I know that they tried to sing over it. They tried to shout over it. They tried to give marital advice over it. They went on a whole tour doing interviews and all of that. But at the end of the day, as a woman, when you get in the bed next to this man who has confessed to you that he has had affairs with a multitude of women, if you're in your right mind, that fact will not leave your mind. But if you're in a state of denial, you can dress that up and make it real pretty. You can turn it into a ministry. You can turn it into a book. You can write a song about it, a real pretty song. But once reality hits, you may not know how you're going to get out. You just know that you got to get out. And I don't know if Tina has ever come to that realization. Apparently not, because Teddy is the one who filed. She may not have come to that realization. And, perhaps he just said, let me go ahead and file these papers because she's not gonna do it, and I'm ready to go. Um, I think that he was ready a long time ago, and maybe it was a matter of waiting until the youngest two children were older before deciding to go ahead and pull the trigger on the divorce. I don't know. Um, I just know that there is a level of sadness that stays with you when you learn that the man you love has been unfaithful. And it's enough to have to accept that he was unfaithful with one woman, but a multitude? I just don't believe that sadness ever leaves you. It's kind of like death. The grief doesn't necessarily leave you. You just learn how to live with grief as, a part of your life. I grieve my sister every day, but I've learned how to live with her absence because I have to go on with my life. I'm still here, so I have to go on, but think of her daily. I miss her. I miss hearing her voice, her laugh, being with her, being in her presence. I miss all of it. But I've learned to live with her absence. And it's the same thing when that heartbreak has to do with infidelity in your marriage. Yes, you can forgive. Yes, you can forgive. But should you forget? I don't know. I don't know. Forget in a way that you don't constantly bring it up, that you get the help that you need so you can heal and not always bring it up. Yeah. If you say you want to stay together, yeah, you got to do that. You can't keep bringing it up. If you're going to stay in it, you got to forgive in a way that says, okay, we're going to put this to bed. We're not going to talk about it. And I don't know if Tina was ever able to get there. I think that she probably thought she was there. And she was doing a whole bunch of stuff to make herself think she was there, but I don't know if she was ever really there. But I want to talk about another aspect of this that I haven't really heard anybody else talking about. And it's the fact that a lot of women stay, and this is why I stayed for a long time, because they're committed to the idea of marriage, but not the reality they're living in their own marriage. That's what was true for me. I said this on Dr. Larry Reed's show earlier. I was committed to the story that I had created in my mind about us, but I wasn't really attached to the truth of us. And it took me a long time. It took me a long time to get there. So I can only imagine Tina's probably not there yet either. But I did a show earlier tonight on limerence. What it is, why we fall into that state of mind and how we can heal from it. But I'm going to say something that might stretch you a little bit, but we talk about limerence like it only happens in dating, but on some level, it can happen in marriage too. And I want to break this down for you. Limerence in a nutshell is that emotional high, that longing, that craving to feel chosen, and it thrives on inconsistency. So let's connect the dots between limerence and marriage. When love in marriage becomes inconsistent, when connection comes in waves, when you're constantly trying to get back to how it used to feel, that can create a cycle where you're not living in love, you're living in longing. And that's what limerence is. And that's why it's so easy to confuse limerence with love. Because longing can feel like love, but it's not the same thing. Now, let me just say this, you know, because it needs to be said. I'm not diagnosing their marriage. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not a marriage and family professional. I'm not in their home, and I don't know the full story. But what I do know is this. What we're seeing right now with their story is triggering something real in a lot of people. Because if we're honest, some of us have stayed in situations where we were hoping things would go back to what they once were. But that's not always the best case scenario, going back to what something was. Sometimes the best case scenario is looking at your life from a forward vantage point and praying and asking God to show you how you can move forward and not drag this marriage with you. Because to drag it with you is to drag you down. And that is not God's will for anyone's life. So what's the faith layer? Let's look at it. God is not committed to maintaining an image. He's committed to revealing truth. So he ain't studying your image that you got in your mind about your marriage. He ain't studying that. He's not going to co-sign that. In Luke 8:17, and this is the NIV version, it says, "For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed." Sometimes what's hidden comes to light, but not to humiliate you, but to interrupt what's been quietly hurting you, to disrupt that pattern of hurt and harm and betrayal. So, instead of us asking what's wrong with Tina, maybe we should be asking what happened to Tina. What is being revealed in her life right now? What is being confronted? And most importantly, what's it going to take for her to be free? Sometimes the very thing that looks like it's breaking your life apart is actually what God is using to put you, the individual, back together. He may not use it to keep your marriage together. He may use it to put you back together. That's what he did for me. He brought me back to myself. Better, stronger, wiser, able to forgive, but also so rooted and grounded in the truth that I was able to accept that my marriage needed to be over. And so my prayer for Tina and Teddy is that they do this in a way that doesn't cause more harm than everything that has already gone on in their marriage. Do no harm. Do no harm. Not with intention. That's my prayer for them. Their children need to see them handle this with grace, with compassion. If they have any love left for each other, they need to do this with love. If this is what they want, okay, so be it. But do it with love. I think enough harm has been done to both of them, to their children, to their family, to the people in their lives that love them so much. If you're going to lay it to rest, do it with love. That's my prayer. And that's my 2 cents that I wanted to share tonight. Pray for them. Pray for their family. Their them as a couple and their children, and then their extended family too. Because you just know this. Just know this. Divorce affects everybody in the family, both sides. It's not just the couple that's affected. It's everybody. And do you have a responsibility to babysit everybody's feelings? No. But you do have a responsibility to be as forthright as you can to lessen the collateral damage that comes with divorce. All right. This is Fridays by the Fire, the after effect. Thank you for joining me. I love y'all. And in the meantime, be good. Good night and God bless.